Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. I appreciate you coming out on another snowy night. Hopefully when we leave here, we won't see a lot of snow on the ground. I do understand that it might have been difficult for some of you to reschedule for tonight, considering we had 2 snow days last week that we had scheduled this evening. So I do appreciate you coming out. And hopefully this will answer some of your questions that you have, maybe all of the questions that you have about financial aid. And I would like to also offer my services after the meeting. If you have any questions, you can ask me personal questions, and then my contact information is also on the PowerPoint that you have. My name is Jane Cesar, and I am the LEAF advisor here at Mentor High School. I have been the LEAF advisor here for this is my 11th year. I work for LEAF, which is Lake and Geauga Educational Assistance Foundation. It's a nice long name. That we are a nonprofit agency with a presence in all of the Lake and Geauga high schools. I work closely with the counselors at Mentor High School to help your students and the families with the process of finding funds to help with their education costs after graduation. By now, seniors who are planning to continue their education should have taken the ACT and/or SAT and should have been working on applications or finished their applications to their colleges. And tonight we're going to talk about what they need to do and what you as families need to do to help pay for that education. Tonight we will define financial aid, talk about the different types of financial aid, the sources of that aid, and how colleges award it. We will talk about the financial aid process and what to do if your family situation has changed since you filed the FAFSA. We will also touch on how to find scholarships. What is financial aid? Financial aid is any money that is provided to a student to help them pay for college. The Department of Education's philosophy is that the student and the student's family have the primary responsibility for paying for school. Aid can come from several different places: the federal government, the state government, the college itself, and private sources. It's very important to remember that loans are considered financial aid. This may be the only aid that many families do receive. There are 2 types of financial aid. One is gift aid, the other one is self-help aid. Gift aid is just like it sounds. It is a gift, the student does not have to pay it back. This can come in the form of grants or scholarships, and these can come from the federal or state government as well as the institution and also private sources. Self-help aid are funds which the student has to either repay or they are funds that have to be earned. These come in the form of loans or work study. Loans obviously require repayment, and work study does require a work commitment from the student. Colleges award aid based on 2 different things: merit and also financial need. When we look at merit, we are looking at a student that received money directly from the college because of their GPA or their ACT or SAT test scores. Many schools do award a student for their hard work while they've been at high school. They can also receive merit-based aid for their special talents, athletic abilities, leadership, service, a lot of different things. Financial need is calculated with a formula, and I'll go through that formula a little bit for you. It's cost of attendance minus EFC, which is created by the FAFSA form, equals financial need. Cost of attendance is made up of direct costs and indirect costs. Direct costs are billed directly from the college. That includes tuition, room and board, and then we have indirect costs, which are also part of going to school. And that's books and supplies, transportation to get to and from the school, and also miscellaneous expenses. If your student lives away from home, they still need shampoo, toiletries, a lot of different things do go into the cost of attendance. When a college tells you what it costs to go to that school, they typically add all of these things. And there are some ways where a student can cut back on their miscellaneous expenses, especially if they have a meal plan, they should eat in the cafeterias. A lot of kids say, well, I get tired of the food there, but if you have a prepaid plan, you better make sure that you guys are eating the meals that are already paid for. So we take the cost of attendance and we subtract off the EFC. EFC stands for Estimated Family Contribution. It is created by filling out the FAFSA. This gives the college what a student's financial need is when you subtract off the EFC from the cost of attendance. When we talk about need, just a very simplistic example would be if we take a family of 4, there's 2 different types of families of 4. Let's say it's a one-parent family with 3 children. The single parent is working and makes $35,000 a year. And then there's another family of 4, 2 working parents, so that's 2 incomes with 2 children. And say they make $125,000 a year. Obviously, the first family has a higher need because their income is lower. And the FAFSA does take, it's a very income-driven form, and it does take into account the family's adjusted gross income. And we're going to talk about the FAFSA in a couple different slides. This chart shows financial need, and it does vary based on the college cost of attendance. Under cost of attendance, obviously it's variable depending on the type of college that you go to. We've got a couple different examples here. Number 1 would be, let's say, a private school, where it would cost about between $35,000 and $40,000 to attend. Number 2 would be a state college, about $24,000 a year if you stayed in state in Ohio, and a community college, which would be a little over $3,000 if a student attended Lakeland. As you can tell, the expected family contribution remains fixed. Need does vary based on the cost of the school. It's recommended that a student apply to a variety of schools and have backup plans. The first school, the dream school, may not be a reality for all of your students. It is definitely the wrong time to choose a school based on the sticker cost of a school. We know what a college says their price tag is, but we don't know how much financial aid a college might offer a student. Private schools have more institutional money to give, and they are more able to meet the need for students. The price tag is not necessarily what a student will pay for their education. One thing I want to caution you also, I've heard many parents say, we're going to figure out the first year and we'll deal with the other 3 years later. That's not a good way to think about it. You need to remember if your child is going for a 4-year degree, a bachelor's degree, you need to think of it as a 4-year commitment. There are some colleges that will guarantee the price and that the student can finish in 4 years. So that might be something to also look at. It's very important that the students stay on task, take the classes that they need to finish in 4 years, and ask for help if they need help. Very important to wait for an award letter to compare the cost of a school before making that final decision of what school your student will attend. And as I said before, that backup plan is very important. Expected family contribution, or EFC. The EFC is the number calculated by the FAFSA. I know a lot of parents are very intimidated by the FAFSA, so my goal tonight is to make it not as scary and hopefully answer some of the questions that you may have going into this process. The EFC uses a formulation called federal methodology to calculate, the FAFSA uses the federal methodology to calculate the EFC. And some factors that go into it, information that is included on the FAFSA is the parent income or the adjusted gross income of the household, parent assets, excluding retirement accounts, and excluding your primary residence. They also look at the age of the oldest parent, and that goes into that federal methodology. An example of it would be they'll use the age of the oldest parent to protect a certain amount of the parent's assets. So one example would be a married family, the oldest parent is 47 years old, they will protect $32,200 of the parent's non-retirement assets. So they don't even look at the first $32,200. After that, they will look at 12% of the parent's assets. Unfortunately, a single parent, same age, 47 years old, they only protect $7,400 of the parent's assets, non-retirement. They also look at the family size, the number of children in college, the student's income. When they look at the student's income, federal methodology will protect about $6,130 of a student's income for 2013. Anything over and above that, I believe they look at 50% of that. They also look at student assets. They will assess 20% of the student's assets that are in the student's name and assume that that can go towards the EFC. There are many times that you've probably heard if your child has a lot of money in their name, you might want to move it. The reasoning being they look at 20% of the assets for a child, and they're going to protect some of the parent's assets and then only look at 12% over and above that protection allowance. To give you an idea of the cutoff for gift aid, when we're talking about the EFC must be below $5,081 to qualify for government grants, and that's the gift aid from the federal government. And that's based on the current Pell charts. There is a chance that the government will change this, but at this point, that's what the charts say. EFC is an index number that tells the financial aid office how to award financial aid. Although its name is misleading, it does not indicate what a student will pay for 1 year of college. It is simply a benchmark for the financial aid department to use. So now we're going to talk about the FAFSA, Free Application for Federal Student Aid. One thing I want to tell you right now is you are filing a FAFSA for 2014-2015, not 2013-2014, which I've had some parents tell me, well, yeah, I already started the FAFSA, but this was last year. That means that you didn't start the right one. So your student is going to be attending college during the 2014-2015 school year. So when we talk about the FAFSA, the name of it is Free Application for Federal Student Aid. You should not pay to file this form. You should always go to the government website. FAFSA.gov is where you should be. This calculates the information from the family and is used to calculate that EFC, or estimated family contribution. You can complete it now. It was available January 1st, 2014. You do file the FAFSA every year. I'm sorry to tell you that, but the nice thing about it is next year, when you're filing this for your child's second year of school, all of the demographics will be in the system, so that all you need to enter is the college that you want the information to go to, as well as tax information. It uses tax information from 2013, and that causes the most stress for most parents. I don't have a W-2 yet, but yet a lot of colleges are asking to file the FAFSA. I'm not going to have my taxes done probably until March, maybe April. I mean, if I owe, I'm obviously going to be doing my taxes later. But there is a way to estimate on the FAFSA to meet the deadlines that the colleges have set up for you. And one of the handouts that I gave you gives you a way to estimate 2013 federal taxes using your 2012 federal tax return. Some processed FAFSAs might be selected for a process called verification. The Department of Education, which is the department that created the FAFSA, has put into place a way to check and verify whether the information that is sent in on FAFSAs is accurate. So they say about 30% of the people that have a FAFSA processed will be selected for verification. It doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong. It simply means that maybe you were one of those random people that got selected, and they want you to verify that the information that you put down is accurate. I will say that if you qualify for gift aid, chances are very, very high that you will be selected for verification, because that is the government gift aid that they want to make sure that they are awarding it correctly. So colleges usually prefer that an estimate be done early January or February. You can check on the college websites to see when they would like the FAFSA filed. If you are doing estimates, there is a question on the FAFSA that asks, have you completed your taxes, or I will complete my taxes. If you say, I will complete my taxes, that indicates that you're using estimates, and you will be going back to make corrections later on after you get your taxes done. Beware of sites and companies that charge for the FAFSA. FAFSA.com, if you Google FAFSA, you probably will see FAFSA.com. Don't go to it. The first page looks exactly the same, but when you get to the end, they ask you for a credit card number, and I believe it costs about $80 now. And I'm not even sure that it will actually get to the Department of Education. So be sure that you do not do that. A few application tips. As I've said before, beware of deadlines. This is something I always reiterate with seniors when they're applying to colleges. Look at the deadlines. It can mean scholarship money. When you're looking at financial aid forms, look at the deadlines. It can mean some aid money. Typically, it's very important to meet a priority deadline to maximize the aid, and it's very, very important if your family does qualify for the need-based aid. The amount of aid that you can receive could be severely affected by missing some deadlines. One thing that you can do now is get your PIN numbers. If you have not gotten a PIN number yet, let me explain what it is. It is a 4-digit code that allows you to sign your FAFSA online and gives the Department of Education permission to process your financial and personal information. The student needs a PIN number, and one parent needs a PIN number, the parent who is in the household. And the description of what a parent is I'll go over it kind of quickly. If you have any questions about your personal situation, please contact me. If you have 2 living parents and they are married and they live together, you file tax information for both of your parents. If you have one parent who is deceased, or your parents are divorced, or they are separated, you file the FAFSA with the parent that you live with. If your parents are divorced and you split time evenly with both parents, you provide parent information for the household that you spend more time, if you spend the same amount of time, it's the parent who provides the most financial support in the last 12 years before filing the FAFSA. So there are a lot of different ways to describe who the parent is, and I know a lot of people do have extenuating circumstances, so please get a hold of me and I can help you with that question if you've got that question. Filing online is the fastest and most accurate way to file the FAFSA. So once you get your PIN number, it takes about, I think it's about 2 to 3 business days. The PIN number is attached to your Social Security number. So they do have to check with the Social Security Department to be sure that your name matches your Social Security number. And very important, once you start the FAFSA, that the student's Social Security number is accurate. That is the only thing that you cannot change on a FAFSA. You can't change the student's Social Security number. So be 100% certain when you're starting that FAFSA that you have the right number. If you've done it incorrectly, you will have to close out of it and start a brand new FAFSA. So like I said before, FAFSA.gov, government website, it's safe, secure. I have never heard of any problems with it. Unfortunately, it is the only way to get any federal aid, so you do have to file the FAFSA. You can file a paper FAFSA, however, it takes a very long time to process it. Submitting the FAFSA, once you have your PIN numbers, it takes about 5 to 7 business days to be processed. In the really busy times, it could probably take up to 7 days. If you file it now, it probably will take about 3 to 5 days. Some schools do have extra forms for them to use to give out their institutional money. The CSS profile is not as well as often used as it was before. Some schools that I know in the past have required it were Worcester, Oberlin, and Kenyon. I don't know if Case does anymore. They didn't for a while, but I'm not sure whether they've gone back to it. But check your school's financial aid website to see if any extra forms are required. I believe the University of Akron has an institutional financial form to be filled out, but they let you know once your student is accepted. Definitely think before you spend money on a financial aid consultant or a scholarship search company. And have your student get involved. Remember, this education is theirs. They need to understand the costs, and they need to understand how they're going to pay back if they're taking out student loans. This is a screenshot of the first page of the FAFSA. This is what it looks like. So when you are starting the FAFSA fresh and you've never been on this website before, you're going to go to, let's see if I can use the pointer, to the Start a New FAFSA. You don't have to finish your FAFSA when you sit down and start your FAFSA. You can save it and go back to it. And I recommend that families do that, because a lot of times you can do the demographic information very quickly, but it might take you a little bit more time to pull together the paperwork that you need to finish the financial part of it. Once you've saved your FAFSA, you can go back to it, and when you go back to it, you go to the returning user and log in. Paperwork that you need to complete the FAFSA. You're going to need the names, birth dates for both parents and student. You'll need your 2013 W-2 forms if you have them. If you're doing estimates, you're going to use 2012 information, and possibly a last pay stub for 2013. 2013 1040s if you have them, Social Security numbers, which I already said. Asset information that they will ask: stocks, bonds, mutual funds, rental property, which they would want to know the net worth of that, savings accounts, checking accounts for parents and for students, and 529 plans. 529 plans are the state savings plans for your students to go to college. One thing that is a little difficult for parents to understand why is if you have more than one student and you have more than one 529 plan for those children, say your senior is going to college but you have another 529 for a junior or a sophomore, any money that you have in a 529 plan has to be reported. The way that program is set up, it can be transferred from student to student. Therefore, you have to report it as a parent asset. because the 529s are typically taken out and in the parent's name, parents are the owners, the children are the beneficiaries. So it is a parent asset. You have to include untaxed income, which would be disability, unemployment, and contributions to your retirement plan. They're not asking for the value of your retirement plan, just the contribution, because it was taken out pre-taxed, and that can be found on the W-2 form or your last pay stub typically. There is a very easy way to get instructions on the FAFSA. When you are going from question to question, if you click on the question, there's a box to the right that gives great descriptions of where to find that information. If it's tax information, it tells you which line to find it on your tax form. So just remember, if you're not sure about a question, click on it, and it'll give you a lot more description and where to find the information. Information that is not included on the FAFSA are Social Security income, Social Security disability, the business value if you have more than 100 employees, or I'm sorry, under 100 employees, your retirement fund values. Some people, we have in the past supplied the worksheet for the FAFSA. I don't think that it's a very helpful tool because the worksheet doesn't give a lot of description or explanation of what they're asking for. The online form of the FAFSA gives a much better description, but if you like to have things in order and put down on one piece of paper to work off of, you can download the FAFSA worksheet on the FAFSA website. So you've filed your FAFSA to meet the deadlines, or you've decided to wait to file the FAFSA. But my suggestion would be file it using your estimates, and you would like to make corrections on your FAFSA. The IRS, well, the government decided that they were going to come up with a way for parents to have their FAFSAs corrected and to be sure that the information that was going on to the FAFSAs was accurate. This was meant so that the college didn't have to contact parents and have them send in copies of their taxes. So the IRS data retrieval was created, I believe last year was the first year that it was used. They say it's available in February 2014. At this point, I would say mid-February if we're lucky. It's the recommended way to provide tax information on your FAFSA. When it's working, it's a great tool. It does link up the FAFSA to the IRS website, and parents can use it, and then you can also use it on your students' tax information. You do need your PIN number to be able to use this tool. Taxes will be available for download from the IRS 2 weeks after they file electronically, or 5 to 8 weeks if you file your taxes by paper. It's important to meet the deadlines again and estimate your taxes if necessary, and then you do the corrections with the data retrieval. Parents and students who do the data retrieval will not have tax information selected for verification if your student was selected for verification. But they might verify other things like the number of people in the household and some other information that was reported on the FAFSA. When you're using the data retrieval tool, when you're in your FAFSA making any corrections that you have, once you change the status of your tax information and you say taxes are already complete, the information for the data retrieval will pop up. And you can click on that. It will take you directly to the IRS website. One thing that we did find last year, you have to put in your address exactly as it is on your tax form. So if your tax accountant, or when you did it, printed out road, R-O-A-D, and if you're trying to link up with R-D, it won't recognize it. So it has to be exact. We had a lot of stress over the data retrieval tool last year, but I think some of the kinks have been worked out. If you have a household where there are 2 parents but they file separately. They file their taxes married, but filing separately, you will not be able to use the data retrieval because it can only go for one tax return. So you've filed your FAFSA, what do you have to look for? You can't just think, okay, I'm done, I don't ever have to think about this again. You will receive something called a SAR, or a student aid report, once the FAFSA is filed. And when you're filling out the FAFSA, they're going to ask for a student email address. The student email address is where the SAR comes to. The SAR contains everything that you have put on the FAFSA, which means all of your financial information. My suggestion to parents is put your email in the student email. Unless you have a good relationship with your children and you know that they will keep that email safe and secure. It's just something that you can kind of keep an eye on and make sure that it's not printed or discussed with people that you might not want the information talked about with. So the student aid report will tell the student if they were selected for verification from the Department of Education. There are two entities that could select for verification: the Department of Education or the college. So you have to keep an eye on the student aid report. Also, you will get an email if there was a problem with the FAFSA. The Department of Education does several checks. There is a place on the FAFSA to put any college that your student has applied to. If for some reason you missed some information, but the FAFSA was still able to be sent through, they will tell you if there's a problem with it. So that student aid report will give you any problems, and that it'll be flagging any problems that might be going on with that FAFSA. So be sure to check the SAR for notifications. If you're eligible for the Pell Grant, the student will be selected for verification. To verify this tax information, the school will require an IRS tax transcript if you didn't do the data retrieval. The tax transcript can be ordered at the irs.gov website. If you're verified, you should get the tax transcript. If you don't get any notification of verification, don't worry about it. You don't need to do that. Be sure that if you are asked to provide information to a college because they have verified you, that you do answer anything and send in all paperwork as soon as possible. Let's see. Aid isn't awarded until the verification process is completed. Another thing to check for is, did the student receive a financial aid award letter? And I have a chart that shows you dates of when you should expect that information. A lot of schools are going green, so check things online. I know that Lakeland sends their award letters online now. A lot of times schools did send them in the mail, but they seem to be doing a lot of that online. The student can accept or apply for their awards online. Check the financial aid website or the award letter for the instructions of what to do to accept anything that was awarded. And by mid-July, you'll probably be getting the first semester bill. A few concerns when filing the FAFSA. We wrote down a few questions that we've heard from a lot of people. Why is the parent information on the FAFSA? The FAFSA is an application, and the federal regulations dictate that parental information needs to be included until a student meets certain criteria or turns 24 years old. You will find on the FAFSA there is a list of probably, I think it's about 10 questions that you have to answer, and that will determine whether the parent information is reported or not. In 90-some% of the time, parent information is reported for students in high school. Does putting my information make me liable for college costs? Absolutely not. The FAFSA is just an application. It does not make you liable for your students' education costs. It simply gives them the ability to get any aid that might be available to them. If I'm remarried, why should my spouse's information be on the FAFSA? Because your spouse is part of the household, and the student's household is where they live, and that is what is reported on the FAFSA. The FAFSA is a snapshot of the family finances. If it is not accurate, you can appeal to the College Financial Aid Office. Now, as you've noticed, I've been talking about 2013 taxes. A lot of time, you have to file the FAFSA using that information, but a lot of times families have changes, and there's nowhere on the FAFSA that they can indicate that to a financial aid office. So it is possible to make an appeal to a financial aid office. A lot of times we call it special circumstances. So you need to notify that school because they don't know what's going on in a family. A few examples of reviewable situations are a loss of job, a reduction of overtime, very high medical bills, a divorce or separation, private elementary or secondary school tuition. Things that a college will not look at are credit card bills, mortgage payments, co-pays for medical checkups, and parent student loan payments. This is the timeline that I was talking about, and it gives you a little bit of an idea when to expect certain things and when you should start thinking, boy, if I haven't seen an award letter, we need to contact the school. So right now, parents are filing the FAFSA between January, February, and March. Typically, schools send out award letters in March or April. May 1st is the date that you have to tell a school whether you are going to attend there or not. Now, many schools are asking students to send in deposits now to hold a place for them. You do not have to send in a deposit unless there's one exception to that. Before May 1st, if a college is asking for the deposit before then, they can do that if your student is planning to attend a program where there's a limited number of seats, and they need to know ahead of time whether your student is planning to go to that school or not. If your student is really nervous and wants to send in these deposits, make sure that they are refundable. They should be refundable up until May 1st, and if they are, then it's okay to send in the deposits. But remember, you need to ask for your deposit back if your student is not planning to attend. Let's see. There are 3 loans that can be given in a student's name. 2 of them are federal loans: the direct Stafford loan, the Perkins loan, and then alternative or private loans. I'm going to talk about the direct Stafford loan first. It is a federal loan. Every student that files the FAFSA can take out a Stafford loan. It does not matter what the parent income is. This loan can come 2 ways. It can be subsidized, which is a need-based part of the program, and the interest is paid by the government while the student is in school. And there's also a unsubsidized component to this loan. This is a non-need-based part of the loan, and the interest does accumulate while the student is attending college. When you get an award letter, it's going to say, it will say anything from direct loan, Stafford loan, direct Stafford loan, sub, unsub. Every school has a different way of describing it. So if you have any questions, please call me, and I can look at award letters and help you decipher that too. This loan has a fixed interest rate currently of 3.86. And if you notice, all of these loan amounts and interest rates are set for the school year currently happening. We don't know what Congress is going to do with interest rates for next year. Sometimes they don't set them until July, so it's a little stressful. Hopefully they will stay the same. This is the lowest interest rate I've ever seen on any Stafford loan, any government loan since I've been working. The student can borrow for the first year a maximum of $5,500, and this is because the government doesn't know whether a student is a good risk yet or not. The amount does go up every year by $1,000. Principal has to be, repayment starts 6 months after the student graduates or the last day of attending school. The Perkins loan is another federal loan that is in the student's name. This one is awarded to the neediest students. So not everybody will see a Perkins loan on their award letter. The interest is also subsidized. This is a fixed interest rate of 5%. The first year maximum loan is $5,500. And colleges can award different amounts up to the first year maximum. It is campus-based, and campus-based means first come, first serve. The first application's in if your student qualifies for need-based aid. Those are the first students that will get Perkins money. So your student may see Perkins money on one award letter from one school but not on another one, and that means that that school just doesn't have that much money. The school is given X number of dollars, and once the money is doled out, that's the end of it. The repayment starts 9 months after the student graduates or the last day of attendance. The third kind of loan that can come in a student's name is called an alternative or private loan, and that's basically when you go to your bank and take out a student loan. We don't recommend these loans, and let me tell you why. These loans have a variable interest rate and can go up to 23%. Now, right now, they are nowhere near that, but typically, loans are put on a 10-year payback program, so within the next 10 years, we really don't know what might happen to these loans. The student can be approved 1 year and not the next. You have to pass a credit check. They need a cosigner on this loan. It is in the student's name. Principal payment can be required while the student is in college. Also, there is a debt-to-income ratio check for these loans every time a student applies for them. So we are starting to see some students that are taking out very large loans for their first and second year, and they're being denied for their third and fourth. Or they've taken it out for the first, second, and third, and they're denied for the fourth year. And that's a real frustrating situation, and we don't want any students to get into that situation. So the best thing to do is to start with the government loans. All loans have origination fees. I believe the Stafford loan is 1% right now. I'm not sure what the Perkins loan rate is, and alternative rates are all different. There's so many things that go into that. If you're planning to take loans, we suggest that you leave 60 days for processing. So when your son or daughter is putting on their graduation cap and gown, you should start thinking about starting your loans. They can be processed within 30 days, but I wouldn't want to take on that extra stress. There is one federal loan that is in the parent's name, and that is called a PLUS loan. The FAFSA has to be filed in order to apply for this loan. This loan can be taken by a non-custodial biological parent, and also for the custodial parent. Parents must pass a credit check. They do not do a debt-to-income ratio for consideration of this loan. It is a fixed rate of 6.41%. Payments on the PLUS loan are a little different. Repayment starts as soon as the loan is dispersed. So if you are taking out a loan for your student's first year of college, as soon as that second semester loan is dispersed to the college, repayment starts on that loan. You can ask for deferral, but you do have to ask for that. And remember that interest is accumulating while you are in deferment. If the parent is denied for the student, if a parent is denied for this loan, the student is granted an additional unsubsidized Stafford loan in the amount of $4,000. There is never a penalty for early payment on any federal loans. Some parents try to pay the interest for their student while they're in school. The nice part about paying the interest ahead of time is it doesn't capitalize and get put back onto the principal. Federal grants, also known as gift aid. The Pell Grant many of you have probably heard about. It is a need-based grant. It is based on the results of the FAFSA. The maximum Pell Grant for this current school year was $5,645 for the year. It has not been set yet for the 2014-2015 year, when your seniors will be attending school. The government sequester may affect the Pell Grant limits. We don't know yet. One thing to keep in mind, the higher your EFC, the lower your Pell Grant is going to be. So an award of $5,645 is somebody that has a 0 EFC. The EFC has to be lower than that $5,081 in order to receive any Pell Grant money. One example to just kind of give you an idea so that it's not a mystery when you fill out this FAFSA. What we like to say is if you have a family of 5 and your income is over $50,000 of adjusted gross income, you probably will not qualify for the Pell Grant. There's another grant, which is also gift aid, which is the FSEOG grant. This is campus-based aid, so once again, it's first come, first serve. If you qualify for need-based grants, it does run out, so it's important to meet the deadlines for the FAFSA. The college does award it to the neediest students, and the award can be up to $4,000. The Teach Grant is a grant that was put into place a couple of years ago. They're trying to encourage more education majors going into specific fields, math, science, and certain foreign languages. The college has to participate in this program for it to be available. Not all colleges do. And students have to agree to teach for at least 4 years in a low-income school. Now, there is one thing about this Teach Grant that is a little bit concerning and should be to everyone. If a student does not meet all of the requirements of the Teach Grant, it then turns into a loan, and all of the interest that has accrued from the time that it was given is added to that loan. So that's something to really think about if you're thinking about going into teaching, that you have to find out all the pros and cons to the Teach Grant. There are some state grants. The state of Ohio, if a student is planning to stay in Ohio and go to school in Ohio, the Ohio College Opportunity Grant, it is also a need-based grant. It is actually for EFCs that are less than 2190. You must be enrolled in a 4-year public or private college, and the awards for this year, private school was $2,080 for the year, public school was $920, and proprietary colleges were $664. If you notice, community college are not on there. The Ohio does not award the OCOG grant to community college students. Other grants can include the Ohio War Orphan Scholarship, the Ohio Safety Officers College Memorial Fund, and if you want to get more information on that, just go to the website that's listed there. Some schools do have STEM scholarships, STEM programs, and that is encouraging students to go into science, technology, engineering, and math. And many schools do have a separate application for that, so make sure that you're aware of that and meet the deadlines for that application. Before I go to talk about scholarships, one thing that I had thought about before this program started, the FAFSA asks the students' level in college when they are going to be attending college. And I know some students are PSEO students. They are getting college credit while in high school, but that credit is currently being counted as high school credit. So when you fill out the FAFSA, if you have a PSEO student, you want to say, first year never attended college before. because those credits have not been transferred to that college, and we don't really know where they're going to put you as far as the number of credits that they're going to give you. So for the first year, you put first year never attended. I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. So talking about institutional and outside scholarships. Institutional money is going to be different from every college, and you will notice that students are giving different amounts from different colleges. Typically, a college will tell you once your student has been accepted what type of money they're going to be giving. Academic money is usually awarded after the acceptance, and most of the times the student has to keep their grades up in order to keep that scholarship. Make sure that you check their websites to see if you have applied for everything. Also, once a student is attending a college, we're only talking about going in as a freshman. Once you're attending college and you are actually at that school, make sure that you're looking for scholarships, because if you don't apply for them, obviously you're not going to get them. But every college has scholarships for those students that are currently enrolled and taking classes at their school. Outside scholarships are really important for the student to spend some energy, and also keep looking, don't get discouraged. Local scholarships can be found. Mentor High School has a drawer in the guidance office, which is A113. It is where Mr. Litzinger is. The other two senior counselors are across the hall, but there is a drawer in there, and if you want your student to find out what is in there, they can go in there anytime they're free, and they can walk through the drawer. The easiest way, I think, to do it is to have the information emailed home. If you go to mentorhigh.com, you can register to have scholarship information emailed home. So if you haven't done that up until now and you want to know what scholarships are actually in the drawer, you can go to mentorhigh.com, the guidance tab, and check and see which scholarships are already out there. All of the grade schools, all of the junior highs in Mentor have scholarships, and I will guarantee if your student does not apply, they will not get any scholarships. And what I like to say to students is, if you spend 10 hours applying for scholarships and you get one scholarship for $500, where else can you make $50 an hour for your effort? So just definitely keep that in mind. Those scholarships that come from outside sources can be used at any institution where your child is planning to go to college. You can go to the LEAF website. We also have a scholarship search, and you can go through and see what might work for you. There are also national scholarships. FastWeb is probably the biggest scholarship search engine. That scholarship search engine, I would say, if you haven't registered for it, have your child create a separate email, because you will get so many emails that it'll just totally fill up the inbox. But if you create a separate scholarship email account, then when the student has time, they can look through those. Always beware of scholarship scams. You can check them out at the Better Business Bureau. LEAF also has a scholarship coordinator, so if you students have found some scholarships and you're not sure whether they're legitimate, just let me know. You don't want to be paying for a scholarship, because the idea is for them to give you money, not you give them money. Up here is my contact information, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. A few extra things that I wanted to also add. Every college is now required to have a net cost calculator on their website. Some of them are very difficult to find, but it's a good way to see what type of aid the school might be able to give you. Some of them are much better than others. Some of them will ask a lot of information, but they will give you an idea of what type of aid you might be able to expect from the school. If you have twins, which it seems like this senior class does have a lot of multiple children in the senior class, there is a way on the FAFSA to duplicate parent information. So once you hit that submit button on the FAFSA, there's a confirmation page, and I believe it's one of the first or second paragraphs that says, if you would like to complete another FAFSA, please click here, and parent information will be duplicated so that you're not doing double work. A lot of times parents ask me, They know that they're not going to get any need-based aid, which means free money. So they ask, should I file the FAFSA? Two personal experiences that I have had. One would be, all colleges do say you should file the FAFSA, especially for the student's freshman year, just to see what the award letter might be. But from my own experience, I have a child that graduated from OU. She did a study abroad program and applied for a scholarship for the study abroad program. And the only reason that they processed her application was we had filed the FAFSA and it was on file. She told me if we had not filed the FAFSA, she couldn't have even applied for the scholarship. And she was able to get it. So for me, it was worth the time for filling out the FAFSA. Also, I have a friend whose child did attend John Carroll, and I don't know if it's still like this, but he was asked by a professor to do tutoring to help students in accounting, and the family had not filled out the FAFSA, so it was very difficult for him to be able to tutor. They initially told him that he was not able to do any tutoring because the FAFSA was not on file. So those are just two personal experiences that I have knowledge of, that reasons that you might want to fill out the FAFSA. Also, even if your student doesn't get any of the gift aid, that loan is available. The Stafford loan of $5,500 is available for your student if they need to take that out and if you need extra funds to help pay for school. LEAF has a resource center. It's located on Auburn Road past the hospital, Tri-Point Hospital. We do a lot of different sessions there. If any of you are looking at the announcements, I always try to put the announcements out there. Most of those sessions are very limited seating, so we do ask that you do reserve space, and the information is always on the emails. If you have any questions, please contact me. I can sign you up for any of those sessions. Also, we do Wednesday evening appointments and Saturday morning through early afternoon for help with the FAFSA. I am also available here if you're available during the school year. During the school day, I am here Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 8 o'clock until 2:30, and I'm happy to sit with you. If you want to start the FAFSA on your own, that's great. If you want me to just walk you through the whole thing, I'm happy to do that. It takes about an hour to do the FAFSA, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Another thing to let you know about, we do have a loan session coming up in the spring. It's always in April. And I believe the session will be April 23rd and 30th. They're usually Wednesday evenings, where we have somebody that comes in and talks to you about the different types of loans that are available and the different costs and what you need to do to initiate the loans. I also gave you an evaluation sheet if you wouldn't mind taking a couple minutes and filling that out. We like to improve our service to everybody, so if you have any suggestions, please let me know. And I appreciate everybody coming out.